Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming this morning. Really appreciate your attendance. I know it's a busy day for a lot of you to be here. There's a lot of things to cover, especially on the Senate side this morning. So we just want to take a little time today to really focus in on public safety. We want to make sure that we were available to talk about the bills that were up today. This is the public safety aspect in particular is one of the most disappointing bills that we've seen so far this year. Something that the single party Democrat control came out with that seemed to really negate a lot of the promises that were made by Democrats during the campaign season. So I just wanted to make two quick points here before I turn this over to Senator Limmer to discuss further on the public safety bill. First of all, it's just the volume of things that are happening today. I know that you in the press are not going to be bamboozled by what's going on. This is clearly an attempt to hide some of the things that are going on, to make sure that the message is scattered, to really hide the poor parts, the disappointing parts of public safety and commerce, those sorts of issues. It's a Friday. You know, we have three major bills on the floor, which is just jamming up you and it's jamming up the public to be able to really see the transparency of what's in the bills and what the policies really mean. So that's one of the biggest pieces that I hope that we can hit on today is just making sure that there's accountability to the Democrats and then making sure that you open up the transparency for that as well. The second part is, so we got through campaign season, and not once did we hear campaign promises of, hey, we're going to raid your healthcare access fund. We're going to raise taxes even though we have a $17.5 billion surplus. None of the regulations were promised. None of those things were promised to Minnesotans, yet every single bill that we see on the floor today and in the past and going forward is going to create bureaucracies. It's going to create issues. It's going to destabilize systems that we've worked very hard to institute in this state to ensure that families and businesses and communities thrive. This is just one example of that. Reinsurance. Republicans worked very, very hard in instituting a nation-leading reinsurance program to ensure that the market for healthcare insurance will be stable across the state and lower costs. We've done that. And now in the Commerce bill, they're going to be removing that healthcare access fund going forward. What does that mean for our Minnesotans? What does that mean for access to health insurance for Minnesotans? This is very concerning for folks. The other thing that we have to watch out for in Commerce is the paid family medical leave. Of course, we love the idea of people having access to paid family medical leave. There's many, many different ideas, but the one that the Democrats have logged on to right now is a very, very detrimental bill. Has opposition from business groups, from communities, from schools, from all sorts of avenues that weren't consulted on how to do this in a way that can benefit all Minnesotans. The other part that's in that particular bill is the Drug Affordability Board. This is something that sounds good on paper, but when you look at it, it's going to reduce the access to medications and also increase costs to Minnesotans. There is so much more to focus on this. However, we're going to look back at public safety for a little bit. With that, I've got the expert here and lead in public safety, Senator Limmer, who can describe a little bit about the bill and what we're going to be seeing on the floor today. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. For those who are not familiar with who I am, I'm Warren Limmer. I'm the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee. We're going to be talking about the Senate Democrat Public Safety Bill later today. It's on the floor after a number of weeks, number of months of preparation. But the final result is something that I'm very concerned about. Quite honestly, I've never seen a more dangerous bill presented from the work of the Senate Judiciary Committee. This new bill gives criminals what I would call a get out of free card, get out of jail free card, due to the policy that's been recommended by the Waltz administration through the Department of Corrections. This bill is not tough on crime. It goes in the opposite direction. It's soft on crime, and it does not address the violent repeat offenders with any stiffer penalties or longer sentences. Lastly, I believe this bill denies justice to victims. And I'll be talking about the MRRA provision in this particular bill in just a minute. What we've seen is that offenders go through the process, they get judged, they are arrested, they're judged, a sentence is imposed, but now we have a proposal to reduce that sentence after a few bureaucratic responsibilities put on an inmate. I'll be getting into that just a little bit. In the background, we still have crime on the rise. I just spoke with local police officials just a few days ago, and they said with the warmer weather, we're quickly going back to the same pattern of violent crime, carjackings, as we've had to suffer through in the last few years. And quite honestly, that's very concerning for me because this state needs to respond in a forceful and a responsible manner rather than talking about letting prisoners out from a prison or a jail. This is the key responsibility of government. I keep repeating the purpose of government. It's outlined in our Senate or in our state constitution. The purpose of government is the safety of its citizens. And yet, this Senate bill seems to be focused more on the end of the criminal justice system, meaning who's in prisons and how soon can we get them out. We need to respond to the threat today. We have a provision in this bill that is created by the Department of Corrections. It's called the MRRA, meaning Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act. And for requiring inmates to take certain classes, treatment models, if they satisfactorily review these simple classes, they can reduce their good time from 2/3 time served to 50% or half time. I don't know of too many states that have that, and we're promised that recidivism will fall drastically as a result of that. Victims are denied justice when that happens. Victims expect the system of governing to protect them and to hold those who have done evil to them to be held responsible, to be held accountable. We have sentences that the legislature has created to deter future criminal activity with our punishment. And yet, nevertheless, we seem to be going in an opposite direction right now with the MRRA program. They also have another program focused on juveniles. And you know, again, I want to emphasize the background that we're experiencing. Rising crime rate, we've had it for 2 years. I don't think a single woman goes into a dark parking lot getting groceries late at night for their family and not very, very concerned about the potential threat that may befall her in the event that she goes out just to get that simple task for her family. Minnesotans are very concerned about their safety and the safety of their children and their loved ones, and quite honestly, I am too. Reducing sentences is not the direction we should be going. The juvenile program that is highlighted in this bill goes pretty much in the same direction, reducing by 10 years sentences on juveniles. And some of these are very serious crimes. This bill codifies a soft on crime approach by reducing sentences of juveniles that are tried as adults. These are the most serious juvenile offenders. And the reason I call it serious, I'm going to read a number of sentences and crimes that they've committed that are in juvenile detention facilities. This bill will reduce those sentences by 10 years. And it's retroactive, by the way. The first sentence, and there's 96 individuals who have these crimes that they have been held in prison for. An axe murder of parents and a sibling. The stabbing and slitting of a throat of a homeless individual. The beating and stabbing with a screwdriver of a victim while the victim was being raped. Baseball bat beating death of a blind man. Stabbing a woman to death 193 times, and also killing in the process a 10-year-old child. Brutal rape of a girl who has mental and physical disabilities. The legislators who are going to vote on this bill are going to have to look in the eyes of those families who have had victims in their families or the victims themselves trying to justify this bill. I'm really sad to explain the bill this way. The MRRA program, if I can go back to that, that also has a list of very serious offenses. This program would make available or make eligible 7,400 felons. 92% of our felon population in prisons today would be eligible for the MRRA program and get out early with 50% time served. These offenses, they don't include every offense. They exclude first-degree murder and some very egregious sex offenses. Nevertheless, they include murder in the second or third degree, manslaughter, certain elements of rape, aggravated robbery, carjacking, kidnapping, assault, drive-by shootings, crimes committed to benefit a gang, kingpin drug dealing, auto theft. The list goes on and on. Minnesotans should be very concerned about this bill. All I have ever heard during our campaign year last year, all I've heard for about the last 4 to 5 years is the rising violent crime in Minnesota. And this is the response that we're going to offer the public in order to keep them safe, is to create this gigantic $880 million bill that goes in the direction of a bigger bureaucracy, of reaching out to be soft on offenders that are already convicted, that are already in prison, and giving a program to get out early. I don't even know if we can justify it constitutionally. You know, we have separation of powers. We have the judicial system. We have the legislative. We have the administration. The judicial branch, those judges who have given those court orders when finding someone guilty of heinous crimes, ordered them into prison for a certain amount of time. We trust those judges to make appropriate sentences. And now legislatively, we're going to reduce those very same court orders and give a reason for someone to get out early. We have probation. We rely on probation quite a bit in Minnesota, where, as a backdrop, many of you know, Minnesota ranks one of the lowest states for incarcerating prisoners. Down like second to third lowest in the country. This will probably bring them down to the very basement floor. And yet at the same time, I just don't understand why we are not protecting the public more so with stricter responses, stiffer penalties, quicker reaction. Quite honestly, I can't say anything without stating the county attorney in Hennepin County, Mary Moriarty, of how she's responded in her job in convicting 2 individual teenagers who brutally murdered a young girl, and only agreeing to a very soft sentence for those 2 juveniles. Just a few short years. But that poor family that lost their daughter has been pleading for justice. Finally, someone listened, and I have my hats off to Attorney General Ellison for stepping in. We're going to be watching very closely prosecutors in the next few years. This is vitally important. This is a key element in that train of criminal justice that we have, from an arrest to a conviction to a sentence, and later probation, and hopefully with the process of rehabilitating that individual. But being a former correction officer, I know there are some that I don't believe ever should get out. But they are, we have created the sentencing for all of those, and we allow the judges to make those appropriate decisions. I'll stand for any questions.
Back to the juvenile part that you mentioned, reducing those sentences by up to 10 years, I believe it was. You went on to list a couple of crimes, throat slitting, axe murder, those sorts of things. Are those, just so I understand, crimes that would be eligible for early release, or what hoops would they have to jump through to actually get that early release?
That bill is written retroactively. They would be eligible for early release. The new standard would be lowered down as much as 10 years.
But just to understand, they would be eligible. They wouldn't be just released immediately. And what does that eligibility look like?
They would have to have a process reviewed, of course.
Yeah. Is there any word on what that process looks like to get that early release
I
done?
don't have that information in front of me right now.
Are you talking about, in those cases, you mentioned the axe murder, is that David Brom? Are you saying is that who you're talking about?
I don't have names on the particular violations.
The individuals are included in that attachment I sent last night.
Okay.
I can double check, but we can look at that. And there is a review board for these cases too, but it's very, very vague as to what the standard is.
So you don't, and the boys who killed, it sounds like the Tricia Daniels case with Stefan Thompson and Brian Flowers. You can't speak to the specificity of when they might be able to get out?
Well, it would be up to the review board to decide. Those are good questions to ask Democrats what they expect of this review board.
So Senator Latz, earlier today was basically saying this is a public safety provision because these people have more incentive to be rehabilitated and to get themselves straight before they re-enter society. You're just not buying that line of logic?
We have a system of probation that does exactly the same thing. It's just that the incarceration is longer. It follows existing state law. We are a state that doesn't use incarceration to a high degree. We rely on probation. We have longer probation periods of time. Although the Wallace administration through the Sentencing Guidelines Commission reduced probation to a maximum 5 years. There's some serious offenses in that as well. But I'm not going to talk about that right now, but it's a footnote. This administration, this bill is not only one piece of Democrat direction in the criminal justice system. This is an addition to what has already been in the works. And the Waltz administration, with his appointees on the Sentencing Guidelines Commission, got soft on probation periods, max probation times as well.
This bill doesn't contain any new gun measures, but it contains the money should new gun measures pass this year. What do you make of that?
Well, I think what they're doing is it's kind of a contingency plan. We don't know if that plan will pass or not. But if it does, the money will be there. If it does not, this money, if it doesn't have a designated purpose that's real, I would imagine that money will have to be absorbed somewhere else or just not imposed.
But do you see this bill as a vote on gun restrictions, Senator Johnson?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the House bill, where they are going to be loading up, I believe, a number of the actually policy provisions for that, they're going to have to partner that up with some funding, and that's what this bill does. So by allowing this to be in the bill, you're clearly clearing the path for those gun control bills to go forward. And so this is, I mean, this is a very, you split up the funding from the policy, but then conference committee, they'll join up. So any vote for this is simply a vote for opening up that pathway for those particular bills going forward.
So your expectation is the funding could pass in this bill, the House would pass the policy, and then they'd go into conference, and then it'd come back to you as an up or down with the gun provisions,
That's right.
as opposed to a separate vote on the Senate floor?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to the MRRA, and either of you guys can answer this, but is it just, do you feel like the incentives in there, the programs that they would be going through just wouldn't be enough to make any sizable difference? Or what is that, like, what is your opinion on the actual incentives in that program and their ability to do what the Democrats are saying they would do?
Well, perhaps one should ask the question, should the low-level prisoner that's incarcerated now, the habitual prisoner, or the person who has a habitual problem with drugs, is that prisoner different than the person who committed second-degree murder? This provision, the MRRA program, the act itself, covers all prisoners, 7,400 prisoners. They all will be eligible to get out of prison at halftime rather than 2/3 time. There's no guarantee they're going to pass all of those courses. And there's no guarantee that they're truly going to be rehabilitated at the end of their program and released. So quite honestly, I think this is a way overbroad program when it includes every single inmate with the exception that are made. So quite honestly, this MRRA program needs some serious revisions. Right now, it is not safe for the public.
Senator, do you regret not getting to a deal last year when you got the gavel? Because a lot of the things you talked about the violent crime, the carjackings, you were within reach of having that happen, but depending on whose account you buy, somebody walked away from the table.
Well, there's no sense having a meeting when the other side never alters their first proposal repeatedly. So there comes a time when you have to realize that there is no chance for a compromise. We offered ours, got thrown back in our face. So after 2 or 3 times of those, I only have 2 sides of my face that I can turn the cheek on. So quite honestly, do I regret it? I regret for the public's safety that we didn't move forward and provide adequate protection for our citizens with more funding for law enforcement, something that this program really does not provide for the local police departments. When I talk to public about criminal justice, they want our police departments to be adequately prepared so they can address swift punishment, swift arrest, and that they can keep our streets safe. This bill is woefully inadequate to that purpose.
Just a logistical question, the $550 million the governor's talked about for local public safety, that's not, is this traveling in a different bill? Is that in the tax bill, not this bill?
We haven't seen the tax.
But it's
I believe
not in
that
this-
that is
It's not in
separate.
this bill.
That's a separate provision.
Could you just comment, I'm trying to make sense of this, because it seems like maybe you're saying that the administration is in conflict with itself. Because on the one hand, you said hats off to Attorney General Ellison for stepping in this case with Mary Moriarty, and that is in conflict then, that what's happening there is different from what the administration is proposing in this bill.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we use the word administration, and we kind of forget that it's supposed to administrate the policies that the legislature creates. County attorneys are part of that administration too, but on a local level. They're the ones that are responsible to prosecute criminals. When they don't do their job adequately and don't follow state law and settle on very lax and reduced sentencing, they're not following the dictates of our state law. Attorney General Ellison, I think, agrees with me. That's why he took the case, in order to review it and hopefully come to a conclusion that two kids that murder a young girl should be held to a higher standard and have a higher accountability. I don't think there's any confusion between administration. Attorney General Ellison has his own administration. The governor has his. So there is a separation.
Leader Johnson, could you kind of
We're open for questions. We want to take all your questions all day long, Senate Republicans.
Can you elaborate on the opposition to the prescription affordability board in the Commerce bill?
Sure, and that's one of those issues that we're working through with the Commerce bill right now. I mean, if you talk to industry, if you talk to end users on that one, there's no guarantee within that bill that you're going to be seeing reduced costs. Even the author themselves, on both sides, can't point to how those costs are going to be going down to the consumers, how those cost savings are going to be going down to the consumers. And that's where we really have a problem, is because you have this accountability board, but who are they holding accountable? If it's not working for drug users or for the users of those pharmaceuticals, then I don't see a point in having that, other than it creates another layer of bureaucracy at that point. So that's one of our biggest oppositions to it. If we saw effectiveness on it, then great, but there's no, when you're reading language, there really isn't any outcome that's guaranteed to help Minnesotans.
Senator Johnson, during that conversation we had the other day, you kind of mentioned, I asked a question about if it feels difficult to get things done in this session. With all these omnibus bills coming up, does it feel like Republicans in the Senate have a say in this stuff, or do you guys kind of just, have you conceded that this is going to pass the way it is anyway?
Yeah, so I wouldn't use the word conceded. I think we are, it's been an interesting year this year. That's one of the things that Minnesotans really ask for is, hey, Republicans, Democrats, we just want to see you work together, right? You have rural outstate, which is represented primarily by Republicans, metro that's being represented by Democrats primarily. And it feels like, even though we're only one seat down, they've completely shut out at least half the state, in these conversations. It hasn't been a bipartisan work environment that it's normally been. Even in the minority last year, when we were majority, we always worked with the minority party on ideas and things that would work in districts and in metro and in areas like that. This year, if you go back and you look at the bills and committee hearings, you'll see very, very few amendments, even entertaining questions that Republican minority would have. They've cut off all of that. And so it's hard to have that bipartisan work ethic going forward when you don't even have a voice at the table at that point. So I'm hoping that things will change at this point, that maybe we can be more part of that conversation as we get closer to the end of session. But no, so far this year, it has been a single party control across House, Senate, and the governor's office. So that's been a very disappointing part of it.
It's a beautiful Friday. Are you planning to be in the Senate all day and all night?
Peter, do you have some questions today too? I'll wait. So it's going to be a long day. We have three large bills up today with the jobs and the labor, and then we have the Commerce bill, and then also Judiciary Public Safety. And we have, as you can see, concerns. This is just a Judiciary bill. If you want to go through Commerce and you want to do the jobs, it's going to be a long night. So hopefully you get a sandwich and you get settled in somewhere sunny, and then you can watch the proceedings on the floor.
Have you been apprised of this big amendment apparently coming to the Health and Human Services bill? Does it have to do with nursing home funding? What do we know?
I'm not aware in detail on that amendment.
I know the room is booked at 11, but I don't see anyone, so if we're done, we can wrap up, or more questions?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time today. Good job. gentlemen.
You bet.